In this video, I'm going to cover color blocking according to digital painting techniques. So after we have a contour drawing and we know exactly where we want our different colors to go, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to make sure that that layer is beneath my contour drawing. It'll be very helpful for you to be able to do that, so then you can see exactly where your paints are going, but without losing sight of where your guidelines of the contour are. And I'm putting color blocks so I remember what layer I'm on. You don't want to paint directly onto your contour, because if you make any mistakes, or if your contour is still showing by the time you're finished, then it'll be very frustrating to have to clean up. After that, what you're going to do is you're going to use the colors that we find up here and use them as reference colors to fill in these different sections. I'm going to show you a couple of methods. One method doing it space by space, and another method that's building on top of each other. So the first method, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the eyedropper tool, and I'll do that for either section. And I'm going to start off with my core shadows, my darkest areas. I can either get it from down here or from here. They're roughly the same. The next thing that you want to do is choose the brush tool. From the brush tool, you'll choose what kind of brush you want to be working with, and it'll depend on how you want things to be made. Right now we're working in the kind of the general brushes. It looks really computer-like, but there's a lot of different kinds of brushes that you can possibly use, as well as download and edit. And we've covered this in a different video on brushes, but you can see that it's at the top or bottom, and you can kind of play around with it as you see fit. I think this brush is one of my favorites, and I like the shape dynamics. I don't think I need any of these things that I want to play with, but I think I do need it a little bit bigger, so that I can fill in area as well. And I can always readjust it with the bracket keys, or using Control and Option, and then clicking and sliding it to kind of play around. I'm going to zoom in so I can focus in on my shadow area. And I think I'm going to make my brush just a little bit smaller so I don't overwhelm it. And what you want to start off doing is you want to start off with edging your design first. Edging it is getting all the edges between sections. And I can do a little at a time or a lot at a time, but then once I have a section edged pretty easily, it's really easy to go back through and fill it. And then by holding spacebar, I can move the canvas, and letting go will put it back to my brush tool usually. So you can see really quickly edging and then filling. And if I ever find, like I did right there, that I went over just a bit, you can switch over to the eraser tool and clean that up. But since we're going to paint over those sections anyways, it might not even be worth it at this moment. But you can. I'm going to speed up the video here so you can see. You don't have to watch me edge and fill so much. But I'm just going to start off with the shadow to start off with. So there we go. In a rough sense, I have gone through and I filled in the shadows. Now I can do each section like this, keep on switching over to my specific colors. Something that's very helpful is that instead of using the eyedropper tool and choosing each individual color as I go, what I can do is I can choose the eyedropper tool, and then I can make a kind of a color mockup. So I'm going to get my shadow, switch over to my brush, and I know that I'm going to need a dark, I need a midtone, I need kind of a mid-light tone, and I'm going to need a highlight color. Whoops. So I put those 4 colors there as a little bit of a reference so that while I'm working, I don't have to zoom back up so often and I can just choose from those colors, because within any object, there's usually probably 100 different variations between every single pixel. But if I narrow it down to just a couple, then it's easier for me to put it through, and then I can add some detail afterwards, especially when I'm blending. Another way of doing this, instead of doing every single section, what I can do is I can layer on top of and just do one large thing. So originally you saw me do just the shadows. I can create a new layer, and I accidentally painted on the background, that was bad. I should have been painting on the color blocked area. You can see that half of it's there and half of it's right there, which I'm going to have to fix up later, but that's okay, in a different video. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a midtone layer, and I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to put it underneath the color block because I'm just going to merge those layers together. I'm going to select this color. I'm going to fill in this entire object. There we go. I think I'm going to hide my old color blocked one. You can see I'm kind of sad that I painted over. At first, you can see that I'm just ignoring all the interior contours because I'm going to use those later. For right now, I am streamlining my work by just filling in the entire shape. And I filled it in with my entire dark midtone. This can be helpful if we're just tracing over the colors and we haven't moved our contour over to the side. Now we see we have the whole thing selected. Something that's helpful, if you use command click, I can make a selection of only that area. So what's helpful about that is that when I start working on my shadow area and I get my shadow, when I'm painting, it's only going to paint where there's selection. So you can see I can get right up and close to the edge without worrying about it so much. I still probably have to pay a lot more attention to the edge of the contour on the inside, but it's made it a lot easier for me to focus on that because I have I've kind of locked where my brush can go. Sometimes that's called alpha locking, locking the pixels of a certain color. But in a general sense, you're just locking in a selection so that it's easier for you to fill in something. And so now I have 2 layers. I have the shadow layer. I have my color block layer of shadows and my color block layer of midtones. And you can see I keep on messing up and forgetting what layer I'm on. So you want to be very smart about doing that. But afterwards, I can select both layers and I can control click or I can right click and come down to merge layers. I'll merge them both together so that it's just one color blocked area. And then I can do each layer because then it's easy for me to erase and I won't be accidentally erasing things. So now I'll do my light midtone. Check exactly where that's at. Okay. And you guys can speed up the video just a bit. Every once in a while, remember to turn on and off your contour layer to see if it's looking accurate, if it's looking like the apple that you want it to. And it's going to look in kind of a rough sort of way. And I can see already that I forgot to add the highlight that's on the edge of the stem, because my contour lines were kind of a little bit too big. But that's okay. That's not very hard for me to be able to put in, especially because this is a little bit more painterly than it is completely 100% accurate. But that's okay, because the next section on teaching you guys how to start putting together and blending your design will finish that out.